up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Dear Critics Review. This time we're looking at Q3 2022, and of course, as always, we've got a big quarter to look at. So I've asked to join us today Luke Strain from the League. How you doing, buddy?
Howdy, I'm doing great. Happy to be here.
Yeah, man, this is your second rodeo on the Dear Critics Review, isn't that right?
Yeah, and it's fun to record stuff like this. Yeah, so I'm excited to be here. Glad to talk about it. I think about the League sometimes, but I don't have anyone to talk about it to. So here I'm glad we can do it.
I'm maybe one day we can do more of these than just 4 of you and get more of you guys on more often. But yeah, we like I said, we got a lot to look at. But I kind of wanted to, just kind of intro into the show here. Luke, when I put out the call originally, you were one of the original members for the Dear Critics. You were one of the founding members, along with Alex and Jeff and Eddie, and you've had a lot of experience with kind of doing all this and like looking at games criticism. So, from the 4 years that you've been in the League, what have you learned about the state of games criticism and kind of where it's at and the pros and the cons?
Yeah, I think the state, when you're looking at reviews, if you really want to know about a game, most of the time the number doesn't really tell you much, at least for yourself, because there's a lot of 70 to 82. Like that's almost every game that comes out and gets reviews is 70 to 82.
Right.
Rarely does it go below that, and I think that's just something that's like a feature that's developed of games criticism, which kind of knew before. Like it's pretty obvious, but I just kind of really see it played out. But one thing that means is that the games that do get above it, there's something kind of significant about it. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be everybody's favorite game, but
right.
For a game to hit very well, to get reviewed highly by so many different people is different. So it makes the exceptional games stand out more, but there's a lot of games in the middle that you really have to know what you like, and you have to actually read or listen to people talking about how the game actually is to know whether you're going to buy it or not. So I don't know if review scores are, like the score itself is exceptionally helpful in determining whether you're going to buy a game or not, except for maybe the super high scores that you want to try just to see what all the hype's about. But you really got to read or listen to what the game actually is before you can really know if it's for you.
100%. I would absolutely recommend or echo those sentiments and recommend that you go out and find those voices that you align with. I've got a handful that I know that I like. I generally like what this guy likes over here, so I'm gonna listen to him a little bit more than just IGN or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, also I do think just to add on to a little bit of what you said, the score is and isn't helpful. It's good to know kind of what the consensus is and just get a pulse. Like it means something that Elden Ring got a 95 or whatever.
Yeah,
that's not
absolutely.
nothing. And it's helpful and informative. I'm going to go into it later, but a game like Cult of the Lamb got like an 85 or an 86 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, that maybe not a bit, maybe wasn't on my radar, but is now kind of thing. But yeah, you're right. As far as the 70 to 82, it's made me appreciate those games that hit that 85, 86 mark, and you have them on your roster. I'm like, yeah, I'm totally happy with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think if I could just say one more thing about the scores, one of the things the scores are good for is tracking the development of the series and the reception of the series. Because I think you can kind of look at, you could look at a trilogy, how each one scores. The first one's going to be scored different than the second and the third, so it's not perfect in isolation. But if you look at, let's look at Borderlands 1, 2, and 3 versus Halo 1, 2, and 3 versus God of War 1, 2, and 3. And you can see how the reception of each game changed. I think it's useful for that too.
Yeah, 100%. I like that angle for sure. Okay, Luke, we've got. Like I keep saying, we got a lot to get through. We got like 25 some odd games that release, and we're gonna try to touch on each of them briefly at least. So let's look at the total standings as we sit right here, and one of the elephants in the room. Not really an elephant, but we're recording this quite late, even into Q4. So we've got a couple of games that are going to be on our list that we're going to talk about today that technically are Q4 games for October, but we're going to go ahead and include them in this. We can't act like they don't exist. They're already scored and everything. So we're going to go ahead and look at them. But as of right now, October 17th, these are the standings. Alex Castellanos, Jersey-Rican Studios, in first place with 97 points. Luke Strain, Omega Strain Games, second place with 87 points. Adam Sutherland, Bearded Brethren, in third place with 65 points. Just behind him, Josh Broccolo, Future Backlogged Games, in fourth place with 64 points. In fifth place with 52 points is Marshall, Ranch Walker. Sixth place, 48 points, Eddie Taylor, Crystal Cross Games. Nate McKeever, Beatdown Games, in seventh place with 45 points, though don't get fooled by that seventh. We're going to talk about Nate a little bit later in the show. In eighth place with 41 points is Logan, Yankey Dang Gaming Emporium. Ninth place, 38 points, is me, Dougsvest Digital. 10th place, 28 points, Amanda, Boomstick Syndicate. And Jeff, Wolfpack Gaming, is pulling up the rear. Right. Well, actually, this is incorrect. It says 8 points. I pulled this actual thing yesterday. I said October 17th, but I actually pulled this screenshot from yesterday. So this is before Mario and Rabbids came out for Jeff. But all right, well, let's go ahead and look at all the games that came out in Q3. Here we go. Escape Academy, Live Alive, Baron Breakfast, Azure Striker Gunvolt 3, Digimon Survive, Xenoblade Chronicles 3, 2 Point Campus, Cult of the Lamb, Blossom Tales 2, The Minotaur Prince, Rollerdrome, Cursed to Golf, Timesia, Midnight Fight Express, Saints Row, F1 Manager 22, Soul Hackers 2, Steel Rising, Splatoon 3, Freedom Planet 2, Metal Hellsinger, Return to Monkey Island, The Diofield Chronicle, Shovel Knight Dig, Valkyrie Elysium, Scorn, A Plague Tale Requiem, and Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope. So we're going to look at each one of our rosters, of course, and usually the way we've done it in the past is we'll kind of look at my roster and then the guest roster at top. But I say let's get rid of that and let's just kind of go in order of ranking from worst to best. So we're going to start with Jeff, actually, Wolfpack, who's in 11th place. And he had 3 games released this quarter. He had Mario and Rabbids that released the reviews came out literally the day we're recording this, and it's currently sitting at an 85. Fantastic score. And then he backed it right up. I just mentioned it. Cult of the Lamb, also an 85. And then maybe the disappointment, one of the disappointments of the year, Saints Row, only got him a 63, some negative points there. So, Luke, where do you want to start with Mario, Cult of the Lamb, Saints? How do you want to look at Wolfpack? What do you think here?
Yeah, I think I'll talk about Mario and Rabbids first. So I played the first one. I think I played half of it, and it was really fun. I can see the draw, but it didn't hit with me like other tactics games necessarily did. But it's cute, it's funny, and it is engaging. And I know that they had a dream team on the soundtrack for this game. I don't know everybody, but I know that Grant Craigthorpe, who did Banjo-Kazooie, he was one of the 3 composers on it. So they really went hard on the soundtrack, at least. And so I'm not surprised that this is a very good game. I think whenever he picked it, I think I should have picked it, at least whenever it got picked up.
I believe, unless he did some dropping, that I'm not sure. Right now, it's sitting as the second spot on his roster, so it was either his second overall pick or maybe his third. But let's say it's his second overall pick, getting 85 points. I mean, dang, that's right where you want to be, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. That's a good second pick.
Yeah.
And then,
well, real quick about Mario and Rabbids, I'll say that I haven't been kind of keeping a close pulse on this one. It sort of snuck up on me a little bit. But what I have read and consumed is that it seems to be slightly a little bit more approachable than the first game, is what I understand. Not that the first one wasn't, but I think they've streamlined some things, some quality of life things that have made it a lot better. and everything I'm hearing and seeing says that this one is better than the predecessor. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's good. I haven't read too many of the reviews, but that makes sense to me. I think the other game I want to talk about is Saints Row. I think Saints Row fell into the Crackdown 3 trap, that's what I like to call it, which is the what are people's expectations of an open world game that takes place in a big city, right? When you have Rockstar with Grand Theft Auto 5 that's still selling and still making so much money, it's like that's the standard, you know? And so
Sure.
if you're Saints Row and you can't get up to Grand Theft Auto 5 level, well, that's what people expect now. You know, that's why Saints Row's only got 63, even though it might be a good game. And Crackdown 3, like I love Crackdown 3. I played it. I love running around as Terry Crews blowing stuff up. You know, it doesn't get much better than that, in my opinion. But it also scored very poorly, just because of that. You know, it didn't have the Rockstar level of detail that people want in a big giant city. So I think it's tough for an open world kind of big city game like Saints Row to score well.
Yeah, it seems to me that Saints Row has maybe the time has come and gone for Saints Row, and I'm thinking about like the humor and the way that they kind of approach all that. It seems like a lot of that won't fly or wouldn't fly in today's culture, like it did with like Saints Row the Third back when they were being really crass, and humor was just in a different state, even just 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago. So I think that may be at play, or maybe I don't think it quite captured the correct spirit of Saints Row, this rendition. I don't think, but maybe I'm wrong. So go ahead.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about the humor later. I mean, when I get into my picks, because that'll be an interesting topic.
Yeah, for sure. Real quick, Cult of the Lamb. I'm actually going to save this one for later. Really impressed with what I'm seeing here. About some of the subject matter, I'm not going to get into. The quality of the game seems to be there. It is certainly a surprise. But great scores for Jeff there. I know he's bringing up the rear of our list, but he got 285s this quarter, which is going to propel him up, certainly. All right. Boomstick Syndicate is up next in 10th place. She had Splatoon 3 released this quarter, and Bear and Breakfast, which I believe is just another one of those sort of life sim kind of farming games. I'm not completely positive. Correct me if you know, Luke. But yeah, Splatoon 3, really one of Nintendo's big fall games for 2022. Any thoughts on either of these games?
Yeah, I think Splatoon 3, I think 83 is very good. And I think especially with OpenCritic, I think OpenCritic probably pulls more from English reviews than anything else. And so it's going to be hard for Splatoon 3 and an English-speaking society that has a lot of shooters. It's going to be hard for Splatoon 3 to get the score that it probably deserves when you look at how big it is in especially like Eastern Asian countries. Like I know it's huge in South Korea and in Japan and stuff. So I think 83 is a very good score, and I think the game. I haven't played any of the Splatoons, but everything I hear about Splatoon 3 seems it's great, and so it's like a good new franchise for Nintendo.
Yeah, well, if you remember the headlines back when it came out, it became the fastest selling Japanese game of all time, which kind of blew my mind. I think I sent it in the thread, in the Dear Critics thread. I'm like, am I taking insane pills? Like, what is the appeal here? And Eddie kind of jumped in quickly to defend it. He's like, oh yeah, we play Splatoon, there's this and that. And like, sure, like I didn't know it was that big. I wasn't trying to like knock the game or anything. It's just like, I didn't realize it was so big to be the fastest launching game in Japan ever. So that kind of threw me for a loop there.
It is pretty crazy, yeah. It shows the culture divide. And then real quick on Bear and Breakfast, I felt like Fantasy Critics really wanted. A lot of people pick Bear and Breakfast, I think, in other leagues because it came up a lot as I was looking for games to pick. Okay. I think it's like you're running like a tavern, so maybe not like a slice of life, more like it's more in the realm of like kind of like the classic Diner Dash, where you're managing your tavern, people who come in and stuff, but a cute art style and stuff like that. So I'm glad that it's got points.
I appreciate you bailing me out of there because Amanda was probably screaming at me like, you don't know what this is. So yeah, thanks for clearing that up for me. Okay, next up, Dougsvest Digital, 9th place. I had 4 games released this quarter. And the most recent one, again, getting reviewed today, along with Mario and Rabbids, was A Plague Tale Requiem. A big Game Pass game this fall, coming out for PlayStation as well. Sequel to the A Plague Tale Innocence, and it got an 83, which that's pretty much what I was kind of thinking. I was hoping when I picked up off the waiver wire, I'm pretty sure. I was hoping for around 85, 86 if I could get that punch. Didn't get there, but I'll certainly take an 83. And then Rollerdrome, the kind of roller derby mixed with Tony Hawk and Max Payne, that got me an 80. Cursed to Golf got me a 77, and then the kind of budgets Souls-like game Thymesia, I don't know how to pronounce it, got a 70. So yeah, that is those are the games I had there. Any thoughts on any of those four, Luke?
I think what's interesting about Plague Tale Requiem is I think it shows what a dedicated studio that focuses on doing what they're good at and then developing that can do. Because I know the first Plague Tale was it kind of started off pretty small and cultish. Like cultish meaning a small dedicated following.
Right.
And it slowly grew and became pretty popular and well known. Thanks in part to Game Pass. And it looks like in Plague Tale Requiem they didn't bite off more than they can chew, but they just continued what they were very, very good at, and then added a few more elements in a skillful and good way. And I think that's what will eventually set apart this developer from others. I think the developers that exceed focus in on what they're good at. That's why FromSoft is going to release high-scoring games every time, because all their games are kind of samey, but that's what they're really good at. And so they just keep getting better at the thing they're good at, rather than trying to add in all these other features or whatever, because. So I think this is a great example of that, and I'm glad that a smaller studio that's a little more indie can create such great games.
Yeah. It's crazy to me that the developer for A Plague Tale also, I think their team Asobo, they also developed Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Is it really?
Yeah, so it's
know.
literally the same developer making A Plague Tale and Microsoft Flight Simulator. That's kind of astounding to me. The range that they have there.
That's pretty cool.
So I've always kind of dug that studio for that reason. When I realized that kind of threw me. But good stuff there. Okay, any other thoughts on my lineup before we move on?
No, nothing too much. I mean, 83, 80 is good. 77 is pretty good too. The no points is kind of what you want to avoid, but at least you didn't lose any.
Yeah, I'm going to be really kind of middling, with my stuff. I had a lot of games this season, this all year, that just didn't release. A lot of dumb moves there. But I'm trying to shore up some points here at the end and have a respectable score. So, okay, next up we've got Logan, who's in 8th place. Yankey Dang Gaming Emporium. Only one release this quarter, Azure Striker Gunvolt 3. And I just realized as we were talking about Dougsvest, I didn't go through all the games. Luke, we'll do that later after this, and we'll just restitch it in. But yeah, Azure Striker Gunvolt 3. I don't know much about this. Do you, Luke?
I do not, unfortunately.
Okay, well, we're gonna give a big pass to Logan's whole roster. It got him an 83. Let me pull up his actual roster in its entirety and take a look. Let me find it here. Scroll. Okay, so yeah, Logan started off with Dying Light 2, Sifu. He's got a respectable score. Kind of like me, he's going to be. He's doing a little bit better than me, certainly. Logan, you got 2 empty roster spots, bro. Fill those spots. Get some points. You're the only one who's got open roster spots. There's no need to have points just sitting on the board. Go grab you a couple more games. I don't think no one else can really grab anything unless they can drop something. So fill up that roster.
Yeah, I'll tell you, 2 years ago, I thought I could fill up a roster with a good choice on November, December. Nope.
Yeah.
You cannot.
If you haven't decided by like September, October what you're getting, it might be too late. But
that's right.
Okay, moving on to Beatdown Games. We're going to talk a little bit more about Nate at the end of the show. He's in 7th place right now. This quarter certainly didn't help his case with his run towards the end. Valkyrie Elysium, 66. Steel Rising, only 71. A net minus 3 points for both those games. That's, when he's trying to make this push for the end with God of War and Callisto Protocol, these like kind of setup games didn't do him any favors. So thoughts on thoughts on Nate's roster?
Yeah, I think the Valkyrie Elysium is probably what's going to keep him from winning. I think, we'll talk more about his roster later, but any will not release is a big hurt because you want to get points every time. But then when you lose points, it's obviously that much worse. So Valkyrie Elysium could be the difference between first and third, frankly.
Yeah, no, it's going to be wild down to the end. Valkyrie Elysium, I'm pretty crazy disappointed in. I know Nate's even more disappointed. He loves Valkyrie Profile back for PlayStation 1. This seems to be and we'll talk about it when we get to the Diofield Chronicle, which is next on Eddie's roster. And Valkyrie Elysium and Diofield Chronicle and a couple of these other games seem to be in this, like, Square Enix is putting out a bunch of games right now, and they all seem to be pretty just okay, not fantastic. And I'm not sure what that's about. Like, people like Colin Moriarty have hypothesized, like, are they setting themselves up for some sort of purchase, trying to get these games out the door real quick, get some cash on hand? I don't know about that, but it is interesting that they have cranked out a bunch of mediocre quote-unquote games. And Valkyrie was, in my opinion, the chief among them that I was disappointed in. I wasn't looking forward to the Diofield Chronicle as much as I was Valkyrie Elysium, but seeing the 66, I think I'm just going to stay away. So.
Yeah, I think if I could talk about Square Enix a little bit, I think they have just adjusted to, rather than betting on the big bet games, which they kind of count on their Western studios for, that they always said disappointed, they are like, well, we know we have a lot of niche categories, so let's just release a lot of games, maybe spend less money and less time on each one, but each game is going to hit one of our niche audiences. I mean, they're releasing 3 tactical RPGs this year. They got Triangle Strategy, Diofield Chronicle, and Tactics Ogre Reborn. And guess what? I'm gonna play 2 of them. So like, I think it's just a different strategy that other publishers aren't necessarily doing that won't necessarily get the best scores, but I think it's gonna hit the right audiences, and so I think that's what they're counting on, making their money.
Yeah, Square Enix is going to be a fascinating study in the next few years to see if they maintain their independence or if they buckle to some sort of merger pressure or acquisition pressure, one way or the other. I'm sure that Microsoft or Sony would love to have them in their stable.
Absolutely.
So I got to think, considering that we talked about it a little bit the other day in the thread, the size of that company, how much they're worth, their net worth is, that they're pretty affordable. They're not. Obviously, when you have Activision Blizzard being floated out there, they're not too expensive.
Right.
So I'm very curious. Big fan of Square Enix. I'm curious to see where all this goes. So let's move on. Crystal Cross Games, Eddie, 6th place. He was our inaugural champion 4 years ago. Won the top prize, and he's doing his best here. He's going to make a good push here. He's got the Diofield Chronicle, like we just mentioned, got him a 71. He's got F1 Manager 22, which Marshall pointed out was a sly, sneaky pickup, which got him a 78, and then Midnight Fight Express, which got him a 76. So nothing fantastic or breaking the bank here for Crystal Cross, but kind of just steady Eddie, just punching away.
That's right. Yeah, I wish I could play F1 Manager 22. My Marshall and my stepdad kind of got us into Formula One, and I've been deep in this year. So I think the game seems very fun. If I had a little more time to dedicate playing by myself, then I probably would get it, and it seems like it would be a lot of fun. But
do you know if this is on Game Pass? I feel like it would be a great Game Pass game.
I wish it was, and I thought it was, because EA makes the racing F1 game, but EA only has the racing license, and so I can't even get the trial because it's a different publisher has the manager game license, and so it's not on Game Pass, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, anytime we do any of these episodes, I get the trailers for these various games, and when I was watching F1 Manager, I'm like, this actually looks pretty good for what it is. I'm not a F1 or a manager kind of whatever kind of game, but just the trailer was slick and well done, and yeah, I was liking what I was seeing. So 78 there for Eddie. Any thoughts? Do you know much about Midnight Fight Express? I've not seen a whole lot about it other than the one trailer I downloaded for the episode here. Any thoughts on that, or do you not know much
No,
about it?
I don't know anything about it, unfortunately.
Okay, I apologize, Eddie. I wish I was more informed. Let us know after you watch the episode or listen to it. Let us know kind of what that one's all about.
If I could say one more thing about F1 Manager, I think the F1 podcast I listen to is 3 video game people, which is Drew Scanlon, Danny O'Dwyer, and Rob Zachney.
Okay.
And so they talked about F1 Manager in one of their F1 podcast episodes. Danny O'Dwyer did, and he had good things to say about it. So
okay.
I think it will be a good game, and I wish that my situation gave me adequate time to play.
Quick aside, what like outlet was that? Who does Drew Scanlon work for now? Is what I'm asking.
Drew Scanlon, I guess he's technically not in video games anymore, but he was Giant Bomb.
Right, that's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
I was wondering where he's landed at now.
So he did his own thing. He made documentaries for a while, like about kind of travel documentaries and stuff. I think now he is producing they took an old, I think it's a Super Nintendo game that never got released, and they got the files, and he is producing a release of it. So that's kind of a little crazy. So he doesn't work for one company necessarily. I think he just does his own thing, his own video production work.
That's good to hear. I liked Drew when he was on Giant Bomb, and it was kind of on my brain since Giant Bomb was recently sold in one of those things recently, and like no one is there that kind of like Jeff Gerstmann, all those guys have moved on, so it's almost like a shell of itself.
I know. Just the only person is Dan Reichert came back and kind of holding down the fort. So we'll see. Okay,
all right. Well, good for Dan. Good luck with them. All right. Ranch Walker, Marshall, 5th place. That Elden Ring, man, that really propelled him. Scorn was his only release this quarter, and it just released. It is currently being consumed by the masses, and it's kind of washing over us. The critics were mixed. Got a 71. I saw some pretty high scores, some 8s, maybe a couple of 9s, but then I saw like some 4 out of 10s and this kind of thing. So I was talking to Logan a little bit. He's played a little bit. He's not in love with it. It seems to be more puzzle heavy and less action first person shooter heavy. So any thoughts on Scorn?
I think Scorn was a tricky one to pin down because it had the look of a game that could be exceptional, that could come out of nowhere and be a great hit. And I think it has some of it, which is why it's getting some very high reviews. But I think just the subject matter makes it's not going to have mass appeal. And so it's just really getting held back by the people who were turned off by, like, I guess, the grossness, you could say, or whatever. So I think Scorn was like, it was like a gamble, and it could have paid off really well. But I guess that's just how it goes sometimes.
Yeah, one comment I saw was from David Jaffe, the creator of God of War and Twisted Metal. He was playing it and said, "I've never played a game that looked so wonderful, but the audio design was so bad. It felt like it was a mismatch almost. Like they didn't line up, and it felt like all of the production was put into the visuals maybe. And it certainly is a looker, art design aside, I guess, or art direction aside." The game looks, and like fidelity-wise, it looks good. But maybe there was, could have used a little bit more, time in the oven kind of thing, or just some more kind of thought with the direction. But either way, we'll move on from Scorn. I do want to say real quick too, Scorn, I think, was in the very first Xbox showcase that showed off like the Series X and Series S and stuff, like a next gen showcase. And there was Bright, Memory Infinite, and some other like third party games. I think Scorn was in there as well. So that one always like held out in my brain as like, yeah, that's a next gen game. But anyway, okay, 4th place, Josh Broccolo, Future Backlog Games. I want to do a quick bravo to Josh in his first year, getting 4th place here. I'm about to read some numbers we got 88, 84, 81, question mark? We'll get to that one in a second. Xenoblade Chronicles 3, 88, Nintendo's other big, I guess it would be a summer release. I think it released in July. It swapped with Splatoon, I want to say.
Yep.
Got the 88. That is slightly better than I expected. I was certainly thinking good things for Xenoblade Chronicles 3. He paid up for it. He got it, or maybe did he draft it? I don't think you drafted it, or if he picked it up. Anyway, I'm misremembering. 88 for that 2-point campus. 84 Shovel Knight Dig. 88, and then the question marks at the bottom. Freedom Planet 2 is still doesn't have a score for the PC only release, and it's been out for I think 3 or so weeks now, 3 or 4 weeks maybe. Still no score. Kind of like the same roster, Soul Cresta, the Platinum Games developed game for Josh, also took a while to get a score. So we'll see what Freedom Planet does. But Xenoblade, 2-point campus, Shovel Knight Dig. Where do you want to start, Luke?
I think I'll start with Xenoblade. That's the series that I have the most history with. So I love the original Xenoblade, and I love Xenoblade Chronicles X.
Okay.
Xenoblade 2 just wasn't doing it for me. I didn't like. And Xenoblade 2 is kind of more like islands that you would go to, and I think it just didn't hit, and so I didn't pick it up. Xenoblade 3, with the good reviews, it makes me kind of interested, but it's so much time, and I think for me, I would rather play something that I know is a little more consumable in small pieces, like Trails of Zero. But Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was a big surprise. I didn't think it was going to do very well, honestly. I thought that Xenoblade 2 scored higher than it really was, and I thought maybe that some of the shine would wear off in 3, but I was obviously wrong. And I think it's just not for me, but it's obviously for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
Well, I was just going to say real quick, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is on the Hall of Fame for 2022 on OpenCritic's website. It's one of those top-rated games of the year. Of course, Elden Ring being the top dog. A game that no one saw, this game called Norco, got a 91, and then a few others.
Yeah.
And then, you've got the 88 Club, Horizon Forbidden West, Immortality, Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Then you got GT7 at 87, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Shredder's Revenge at 87. So it's in some elite company. If there again, I wish I could remember if he drafted that or if he picked it up off the waiver wire. I think it was a waiver wire grab because I want to say big bucks were spent on it. So that is like, I don't know if you play fantasy football at all, but every now and again, a running back on a team will get injured, and his backup becomes crazy, desired, and people spend money for him on the waiver wire because he's not on a roster or anything. And there's always a mad dash to get that player. I feel like Xenoblade Chronicles was that running back who kind of pierced through and was like, "No, I'm going to be awesome this year, and you will pay up for me." If I had, I don't remember how much money I bid, but I wish I'd have bid a little bit more to get that game.
Yeah, and I think it's because the release date got moved up to sooner, and so I think it didn't have a solid date. I think maybe the fall, and so I don't think people drafted it because they thought it might get delayed.
Yeah.
Then when it got moved up, everybody rushed to bid on it, and obviously deservedly so.
Any thoughts on Shovel Knight Dig or 2-point campus before we move on?
Shovel Knight Dig, I'm glad it came out. I like the original Shovel Knight. I played on the 3DS. Maybe I can get Shovel Knight Dig on the 3DS. I haven't looked it up. But it seems fun. And then 2-point campus, I was going to get 2-point campus. He got it I think, I don't know if there's a draft or a waiver pickup, but I remember I was going to get it. That was going to be my next pick or my next waiver, and he got it from me because I knew it was going to do well because that developer has history of well-scoring games, and so I'm upset that I didn't get it. Obviously, it paid off, so good on him.
It looks like it was a waiver wire claim for him. So
yeah, so I think I bid on it, and maybe I don't know if he outbid me or if I was going to bid on it next week or something like that.
Yeah,
but,
I'll try to. I need to try to get
him.
those details before we record, kind of going in as far as some of these waiver wire bids and sort of see who outbid who. That would be good stuff to bring to the show. It's just a lot to suss through. But anyway, I'm making excuses at this point. Okay.
Sounds like a lot of work, honestly. I wouldn't do it if I was you.
A lot of, just reading through spreadsheets. Cool. Okay, Bearded Brethren, 3rd place. Adam, again, shout out to him. He's come in the league year 2. This is his 2nd year, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, Adam's been the year. Yeah, this is his 2nd year. Yeah, just coming in, making waves. He's got Escape Academy 2, getting him an 80, and then Blossom Tales 2, also getting him an 80. So he met the Alex Castellano, seal of approval of getting an 80. Blossom Tales 2, I'll be quite honest, I don't even know if Adam knows what the game is about. I didn't know what this game was about.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. Any thoughts here?
I was gonna say, yeah, I don't think he does, just with how he jokes about it on the message grid thread.
Yeah, but really, Escape Academy 2, that's one of those sneaky games that I would just never really think about. We
Yep.
talk about it a lot, where like being in the league grows kind of our like purview of games available, and just
Hmm.
sort of like expands it a little bit. This is a sneaky 80. This is a cool sneaky 80, man. This is a great way to get 10 points onto your roster, and not many people will be thinking about it. So, again, I don't have any commentary on Escape Academy 2 or Blossom Tales 2, but I'm just going to say nice grabs here. You're really playing the system. You're getting. I'm assuming, Adam, you wouldn't probably play either one of these games either, but you wanted solid scores on your team, and you got them.
Yep. I think at a different time I would play Escape Academy 2 with my wife. I think maybe we still will if it stays on Game Pass because it
Okay.
seems we like escape rooms and so it seems fun.
Sure.
But those were definitely smart pickups.
Yeah, I want to say maybe Logan played that as well. I feel like, and he enjoyed it, but maybe I'm completely wrong on that. Okay, moving on. Luke,
Yes.
Omega Strain Games, second
Yeah.
place. You got. I'm eager to talk about both of these games because Return to Monkey Island got you an 86. Right there, like we just said, it just missed that kind of Hall of Fame being a top scorer for the year, even though it is still a top score. 86 is fantastic. I want to go ahead and just kind of pause on Return to Monkey Island real quick.
Okay.
I think that I'm not sure who the marketing guys were for this game or who sent out the review copies. I think they picked I don't know, the audience that was going to review this game was predisposed to like this game. I think
Absolutely.
way
Absolutely.
more than you can say that about a lot of genres, about a lot of outlets, about who they put to review this game and that game. I think there's arguments to be made. This game, maybe out of any of them, it was like they handpicked all the reviewers. Maybe like, I know
Yeah.
you love Monkey Island. I know you love Monkey Island.
That's right.
And the score, I think, shows it a little bit. I think if you give Return to Monkey Island to the masses, it wouldn't be an 86. But kudos to whoever handled all that. I think it was a good marketing situation. I'm not saying the game's bad or didn't deserve the 86. I think you could just really tell that everyone that reviewed it seemed to really be Monkey Island fans. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
absolutely. And I think what the reason I knew this game had a lot of potential is because the original creator of Monkey Island did like there were 2 or 3 games in the middle that he didn't make, and he came back for this one.
Yeah.
And so that was like, okay, that's a good sign, just like what happened in the TV show Community. I don't know if you watched it, but Dan Harmon left for one season and then came back, and then it got good again, and it's the same. And so with the original person coming back, I think the people who are nostalgic for it are going to be excited about that person's vision. The fact that he's back is going to improve their impression of it before they even play it. They're already going to be predisposed to like it because they want to like what the original creator did. So that was one of the reasons, the main reason I picked it up because
Yeah.
of the return of the original creator.
And that's a fantastic point. It's yeah, and he kind of it's one of those like, okay, hold on, you're screwing it up. Let me get back in here and do it the right way, So
Exactly
yeah,
right.
so that's a cool release there, 86. And then the second game that you had this quarter was Metal Hellsinger, got you 79. Just missed that 80 score, but again, fine score there. I am. This is on my wish list. I want to play this game. I don't even know if it's on what systems it's on. Is it PC only or what? But it looks right up my alley. I love rhythm games. I love these, Doom style first person shooters. So I want to play this at some point. So thoughts on Metal Hellsinger?
Yeah, I think it's hard to be too upset. It's like a new series and it's like a new kind of concept of the game. Obviously, rhythm games are not new and shooters are not new, but it's a genre that there hasn't been a big game released that does something like it before. So it's a little bit of a risk. I could have tanked and it didn't, and so I'm glad. I'm glad I got 9 points is good.
Yes.
I think I expected a little bit more going off of the previews because I think the previews were very high on it. And so, like, I was reading previews about it, and it seemed very good. And then when it got I think mid to late, I guess the late summer release date, I was like, okay, I got to pick it up. Good previews
Yeah.
and stuff. So, I think it could have been better. I was expecting a little bit better, but it didn't tank, and so I'm happy. And
Yeah.
I'm like you, I like rhythm games, and I hope to try it out at some point.
Yeah, I could have totally seen this be like a 68 or something.
Yeah.
If it had been, 84, 85, I would have been seriously impressed, and I think it would be on its way to being like a mega hit kind of,
Hmm.
or at least some sort of hit. Not that it won't be successful, but 79, yeah, you can't be upset with it. I think this game had a wide range of outcomes,
Yes.
so I'd be happy with the 9 points on this guy, especially being, late in your roster.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. Alex is last here, of course, in first place, Jersey-Rican Studios. He had 3 games released this quarter. Live Alive by Square Enix, 81. This was the Japanese-only release game, finally coming to the West. Has a mixture of kind of stories, vignettes, that kind of, a bunch of different kind of JRPGs or different styles kind of in that vein, all fused into one. He also had Soul Hackers 2, got him a 75, and Digimon Survive got him a 76. So just some solid scores. Soul Hackers, Digimon, kind of whatever, but I think, again, where he got them on his roster, not awful. Live Alive, I think, delivered the goods. That was another highly sought-after game, I want to believe, on the waiver wire when it hit. I think when Nintendo announced this game, I think it kind of knocked everyone's socks off. Like, wait,
Yeah,
what?
absolutely.
So I didn't know this game existed. I'm sure there's lots of people that did and were like, yes, let's go. But you could tell it had that energy. And it really, I say it delivered with an 81. Maybe it could have been better, but that's a good score. What do you think of these?
Yeah, I think for Live Alive, that's one of the games that the old games media people were super pumped about because they're like, "Oh, I read about that in a magazine when I was 12, and I wanted to play it so bad." And
Yeah.
so now that it's here, I think it definitely had a lot of hype, and I think the beautiful HD 2D art style that Square Enix has definitely helped. I played a little bit of Live Alive, and I thought it was good. I haven't. I think I need to play more to really get what it's about because I haven't even finished more than one of the plot lines.
Gotcha.
Soul Hackers 2, I know that was thought of after on the waiver wire when it was announced. When I looked at the preview, I wasn't really sold. I think I could see why it was sought after. It kind of had a lot of Persona vibes, but I wasn't convinced that it was going to have what really makes Persona great, which is like the style and the production value. And I think it didn't, and so that's why it's at a 75. I'm sure it's a fine game. Like 75 is good, like it's not a bad game.
Yeah.
And so I'm sure it's great for its niche audience, like Square Enix we were talking about. But I'm not too surprised that it didn't do exceptionally well. Digimon Survive I don't know about, but I know I played old Digimon games, so I was rooting for it, honestly. 76 is good. It seems like a good game for who it was for.
Yeah, I'm not rooting for any games that are on Alex's roster.
Fair enough.
So yeah, I got to throw out the hate sometimes. Okay, well that is those are all the games that released this quarter, and so let's kind of zoom out a little bit. We're looking at all the games now. This is where I kind of like to think about or talk about, like, the games that we've played, any of these quarter releases that we've actually have played, or just kind of surprises one way or the other, good, bad. So pick out a couple of games here that you've played, you've had some experience with, or just kind of shook you one way or the other.
Okay, yeah. So like I said, I played Live Alive. I think I can see why it reviewed so well. I think it has the great art style. It's very charming. I'm looking forward to playing it more. I know Logan has played it a lot more, but I think Live Alive got 11 points, which is good. I think that fits what I expect, and so I was happy for it, and I'm looking forward to playing it more. I already talked about Return to Monkey Island, that's the game that impressed me a lot. That was on my roster, so I think I knew it had a high ceiling, and 86 is really good. It's bouncing between 86 and 87, and 86 is very good. So I'm definitely very happy about that. And then, I kind of talked about it earlier, but Xenoblade Chronicles 3 was a surprise for me. I didn't think it was going to do well, and it did. So I think I just need to get outside of just the games that I like and get outside of my perspective and pay more attention to what other people are saying about it, I guess.
Yeah. A couple that I've got here, and we can bounce back to some of these if you want to. But the main game that I played was Rollerdrome. I've talked about this on the Reform Gamers. This is one of my very favorite games of the year. It really wasn't surprising when I saw the trailer. I'm like, Tony Hawk with guns, give me.
Yeah.
And that's almost exactly what it is. It feels great to control. It's that score chasing, combo driven kind of gameplay. Really fun, really smooth, really just kind of sick and nasty gameplay. Just really fun to play. So highly recommend Roller Drome. The game that surprised me this quarter was Cult of the Lamb. I knew it had some inertia or momentum behind it a little bit as an indie game. It was a Game Pass day one game, correct?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, so I knew about that. So, but I didn't expect the 85 it got. That really kind of threw me. There again, once you get to 85, 86, you're talking about being one of the better games of the year.
Yep.
So, Cult of the Lamb, there again, subject matter aside, I'm not sure what some of the stuff gets into, but it seems to have tickled a lot of fancies in the gaming industry. So that one kind of caught me off guard. So, Cult of the Lamb, and then my disappointment. I've already mentioned it briefly. Valkyrie Elysium, 66, man. How can you do this, Square? You do not need to be releasing games under a 70. Not that, the Metascore is everything, but good grief. I was just expecting a lot more from Valkyrie Elysium. So, yeah, that is mine. Anything else from your list that you want to call out real quick, Luke?
Yeah, I think most of the games I've been playing are not the new releases, so that's why I don't have too much to talk about.
Sure.
I played a little bit of Overwatch 2 with my friends. I'm playing a lot of Risk of Rain 2. Any of y'all played Risk of Rain 2? That game is good. I love that game. That's a classic.
I know you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, you always talk about some Risk of Rain for sure. Okay, well, as we're wrapping up the show here, I want to close with a close-up look at your roster, Alex's roster, and Nate's roster. Adam might feel a little like, hey, well, what about me? Sorry, Adam, I don't think it's going to happen this year. Maybe it does. If it does, hey, I'm all for it. Anyone but Alex, really. But there's these games coming out for the rest of the year on y'all's three rosters that I'm calling the Big Eight. And so I want to look at each one of these real quick and kind of do some prognostications, maybe just straight up guess what you think the Metascore will be, and then maybe kind of how it will affect the final standings and who's going to actually be there. So I want you, obviously I'm sure you're biased, but I want your take on who you think is going to take it, how you're going to take it. So let's just start with Alex's roster. So Alex, currently, let me go back to the rosters real quick, make sure I'm saying the right scores here. Alex has a 98, and he has 2 games to release. 3 if you want to count the counter pick, but we're going to save that in just a little bit. He has Warhammer 40K Darktide, which is coming out on November the 30th, according to the website. And he has Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 coming out October 28th. And actually, it'll probably be reviewed next week or so. Here pretty soon upon recording. So, Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Arguably one of the bigger Call of Duty games as far as hype goes in recent memory. Anytime you harken back to the Modern Warfare name, you're going to get a little bit of buzz. Warhammer is a tried and true franchise that always delivers quality. Where do you go ahead? I want an exact score. Where do you see Call of Duty? Where do you see Warhammer? And kind of how will it affect Alex's roster?
All right, I got you. Okay, so Warhammer, of all of these games, Warhammer is the one that I think has the biggest range in my opinion. Well, okay, High on Life has the biggest range, but Warhammer could be could be another 86. It could be super high scoring. I don't think so. I think there was the Warhammer game that came out earlier this year, scored very well, but it was a different developer and it was a different time. It was Total War Warhammer,
yes.
right?
Yes.
So I think the Total War games always do well. Warhammer 40,000 Darktide, I don't think it's good. I think it could, but I don't think it's going to. But that's the biggest question mark. I think Warhammer 40K will get. I think it's going to get I think it'll be at an 80.
Okay.
That's my prediction.
I was going to say 79, but go on.
Yeah. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. I don't think the Call of Duty games review exceptionally well. This one has the campaign coming out a week before. And I think that's going to help the reviews, honestly, because I think they always have great campaigns that get overlooked.
Yeah.
But I still don't think it's going to push it that much, even with all the hype. I think the in the critic review, the critics are not like the people that make Call of Duty the best-selling game every year. So
Right.
I will be surprised if Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 it gets more than 10. If it gets more than 12, I will be like floored, like and surprised, not in happiness. But
Hmm.
so I think Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 is going to get more like a 7. So I think that's what I see Alex getting. Like I think he'll get 17, and then his final score. I have to go. We have to wait till we talk about Callisto Protocol because that's obviously a big part of his final score.
Yeah, we'll
But
we'll come back around to that
yeah,
with Nate's roster, but I'll go ahead and say for Modern Warfare 2, I'm going to say the exact same thing, 79. I think it will almost get that 80 again from the Modern Warfare bump, but like you said, I think the reviewers aren't the same crowd that makes it sell millions every year, so I'll keep them both at a 79 for now. Okay, the next roster we're going to look at is yours. You have upcoming Midnight Suns, Marvel's Midnight Suns, which is releasing on October. No, excuse me. That got delayed to December the 2nd. So Marvel's Midnight Suns, and you have High on Life. Is it just those two?
just those two. That's it.
Oh yeah, sorry. I was thinking about the other list. Okay, so High on Life on December 13th. So yeah, December 13th, December 2nd. Really waiting to the last minute here to get your scores in.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead. Oh, sorry, I thought I lost you just for a second. Sorry, the thing just skipped. I'll go ahead and jump in and say Midnight Suns. I have no idea. I literally this is the one that you kind of mentioned about Warhammer, the widest range. I don't know if it has the widest range. I just have no idea. I can't even guess what this is going to get. I understand the pedigree of the developer. Marvel's involved. It's always kind of iffy there. I don't know. I'm gonna say they deliver the goods and it's an 81. I don't. I just don't know.
Yeah, I
That's
think that's
me
fair.
saying it delivers the goods. I don't even know. I don't know where to start. So bail me out here. You clearly know a lot more about Midnight Suns. What do you think this one's going to be?
Okay, so I think the key to knowing Midnight Suns is knowing the team, which say has the pedigree. So their last game, this team, Fire Axis, they made XCOM and XCOM
Right.
2. XCOM 2, which was regarded as worse by many people. Man, I don't remember the score. I should have been more prepared. But XCOM and XCOM 2 we got. I'm pretty sure XCOM was like an 87, and XCOM 2 was like a 90, even though it launched with some problems. So I think they know how to make a tactical game. And obviously, Midnight Suns is very different than the XCOM games in some ways, in that you're heroes. You're not like an everyday soldier where you can customize and stuff.
Right.
But they know what they're doing. And I think the fact that they delayed it twice this year shows that they're making it right. You know, like when it was gonna release in March, I
Right.
think. Then it got delayed to October. Then it got delayed again. And I think that shows the care that the team is putting in. And I think I was like you, but because it's card based, that was a red flag for me at first. It's not anymore, but at first that was a red flag, and because it didn't have like the customize your soldiers, name them after your friends,
Yeah.
so that you can make stories with them aspect.
Right.
I was tepid at first, but when I read an interview about the card system, about how it makes you feel like you get a broken deck, which reminded me of what I love about Slay the Spire.
Okay. Yeah.
Every time I beat Slay the Spire, I think this is the best deck I've ever had. No question. This deck is so good. And I think if it can capture that feeling while you're being a superhero with the with the good tactics gameplay that you have from XCOM, I think Marvel's Midnight Suns could be a big hit. In my opinion, it has the potential to be one of the best sgoing games of the year. I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
So then give me your official score. Then what do you think
Okay.
this is going to hit?
I think I'm going to say it's going to get an 88. That's what I think. I think
Okay.
I need it to get an 82. That's my opinion. And I need it to get an 82, but I think it's going to get an 88. That's what I think.
Okay.
Because of the pedigree, off of my love of deck builder games, I think that's what it's going to get.
Okay, obviously this is your either second or third overall pick, so very high in your heart, I'm assuming. So yeah,
Yes.
all the best luck there. This one's a little bit more interesting. High on Life,
Yep. Yep.
the I think Microsoft exclusive or Xbox exclusive, at least console, first person shooter with just infused and the creator's name or the IP he created, is it Rick and Morty? Is it
Yeah.
that guy?
Yes, he did Rick and Morty. It's not Dan Harmon, but the other guy who created Rick and Morty.
Okay, so highly infused with humor,
Mm-hmm.
and I think some of the gameplay clips have shown maybe some crass humor that
Yeah.
may not be certain very palatable to Christians, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm not judging the game, but this is going to, as you alluded to earlier, Luke, this could live or die based on its humor. So
Yep.
give me your thoughts on High on Life.
So I think there's a couple things that give me confidence in High on Life. I don't know who's developing it as well as this example I'm going to give, but I think the best comparison that I hope it's going to be is South Park Stick of Truth, which was a game. They took the gameplay seriously. They didn't make a phone it in South Park game. The creators of South Park were involved in making it, and so it reviewed well. People loved it. It had good gameplay, and it had the South Park humor that made people who like South Park like it. So that's one thing that gives me confidence. The second thing that gives me confidence is this game was originally a Stadia exclusive. That when I guess when Google's Stadia strategy changed a couple of years ago, they stopped basically being the sole publisher, and then Microsoft stepped in and took it. And because it was going to be a Stadia exclusive that Microsoft took over, I think that gives me a lot of confidence. I think when Google was launching, the guy who they hired to launch it was looking for exclusives that were going to make the big difference. And so I think this was one that had the potential, and I think that we talked about humor before, about the Saints Row humor. I think this is different. This is not like Saints Row humor.
Correct.
I think it's a little smarter probably. Not I don't mean to talk down to Saints Row because it's humor.
No, I'm with you.
A lot of people liked
I
it.
get what you're saying.
But Rick and Morty is very popular for a reason, So if it captures the same humor, which it seems like it's going to, and the uniqueness of your gun having a personality and talking to you about what you're doing while you are doing it, I think is going to make it review well. Like I said, I think Midnight Suns I needed 12. I think for High on Life, I really needed 12. And then anything that less than that it gets, I need Midnight Suns to make up. That's what I'm really shooting for, to get 24 points out of my last two games. I think High on Life, I think it has a lot of potential. All the games I picked, I think, have a lot of potential, honestly. But High on Life, if I'm gonna put a number on it, I think it's gonna be an 80. That's what I think it's gonna be. I hope it's an 82. It could be even better, but I think it's gonna be like an 80. And then I need it to be an 82. And if it's not, hopefully Marvel's Midnight Suns can make up the difference.
Yeah, I think High on Life has it looks really great. I think it's got a lot of hype behind it. I think this is going to get you an 81 is where I'm thinking. I wouldn't be surprised if this was like 87, 88. I would that doesn't surprise me. I wouldn't be surprised to see that. If it was less than a 70, that would be a little shocking, I think.
Yeah,
I think
agree.
it does look quality. People would really have to not enjoy the humor or some other aspect specifically about it to give it, whatever, they can do whatever they want to. But I just don't see it lower than a 70. It just looks too quality, just like the gameplay is just too good for it to hit that kind of score. So I'm thinking an 81 is a kind of a good middle ground where I think I'm going to rest. So yeah, 11 points for you there is what I'm thinking. Anything else before we move on to Nate's roster?
No, I think I can more talk about my games. I think when we talk about all of it together.
Sure. Yeah, we need to kind of wrap it up here. So Nate has 4 games coming out: Harvestella, new Tales from the Borderlands, which will be interesting.
Yep.
God of War Ragnarok, of course, one of the big boys of the year, and the Callisto Protocol, which is Alex's counterpick, which makes Nate's roster so interesting, or it just makes everything so interesting. The fact that was the counterpick. If that wasn't the counterpick, I don't think any of this would be nearly in question.
Nope.
I think Alex would probably have the championship locked up, but the fact that this is Glenn Schofield, the creator of Dead Space, it seems to have the marketing. It seems to have the, not that marketing's everything, but the team knows this is probably going to be a good game. I haven't seen anything about the Callisto Protocol that looks poor. I am amped to play it. I think it's going to do great. So I think Alex is set up for a gut punch, but how big is it? That's the question. So let's go ahead and knock out Harvestella and New Tales from the Borderlands, and then we'll settle in on God of War and Callisto a little bit. So
Okay.
real quick, just give me a quick thought on either Harvestella and or New Tales, and then give me a score of what you think they'll hit.
Okay, Harvestella, I know it's a slice of life game. I think it's going to be like a 77, 78. New Tales from the Borderlands, you know, the Telltale is hard. It's hard to know. I think the original Tales from the Borderlands did well. It did better than the rest of the Telltale games,
Yes.
and so again, it's going to come down to the humor. So I think New Tales from the Borderlands, I think it could get a 70, but I think it could be like an 84. I think my guess is I think it's not going to exceed expectation. I think it's going to be like a 72. And real quick, I think there's also River City Girls 2, which I don't think you have listed because it doesn't have a release date.
Because it doesn't have a release date.
So,
I genuinely don't think that's going to land. Now, I'd be happy to be wrong, but yeah, that's why I didn't list River City Girls.
I also don't think it's going to land, and I think because it's not going to land, that's what's going to prevent Nate from winning. Because I think obviously Hellblade 2 is not going to release. Obviously,
Right.
River City Girls 2, if it releases, then I think if all of Nate's games releases, including River City Girls 2, then I think Nate's going to win. Honestly, but if with River City Girls 2 not releasing, I don't think he's going to have enough to push him over unless the Callisto Protocol is a huge hit.
Like 89, 90 plus.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly right.
Okay, so I think Harvestella. There again, I don't know. I mean, the trailer looked okay. I'm gonna say like a 74 for that one, 75 maybe. And then New Tales from the Borderlands. That's another one, kind of like Midnight Suns, where I'm like, I just don't know. I played the original Tales from the Borderlands and enjoyed it, but this is a different era. It comes down, like you said, to the writing. The writing's got to be there for these types of games. So I just don't know. I don't know who's writing this. There may be some great writers behind it, but I haven't looked into it myself, so I simply don't know. I'm going to say a 76 for a New Tales from the Borderlands. So 74 Harvestella, 76 for Tales from the Borderlands from me. Okay, God of War. The first one got like a 92, 93, something like that.
Yep.
This one looks to be... it seems like it might follow in the Horizon Forbidden West thing as far as like kind of more of the same, maybe not as good or as impactful, I should say, as the original release. So where do you see God of War Ragnarok here?
I think I'm counting on God of War Ragnarok getting a 92, which would get Nate 24 points. That's what the original one got. I think this one, I think the gameplay is going to be better. It's going to be more varied. I think the varied enemies was one of people's complaint about God of War. So I think that's going to be better. It's going to be hard for them to capture the story magic that they had. But it's a strong team. They obviously know what they're doing. It's a loved franchise. I'm counting on it being a 92. I think. So that's what I'm going to stick with, 92. That's what I think the score is going to be.
Okay, let me go ahead and just take a stab at it. I'm going to say 88.
Okay.
I think that's what Horizon Forbidden West got. I think this will get the same thing. I think there's just a bit of the honeymoon's over with Sony and their third person adventure games. I think of the PS4 era.
Maybe.
I think it's starting to people are starting to get tired of it a little bit, and this is that same formula seemingly. And so I just don't think the impact will be there. When people played God of War 2018, they were used to the old God of War series, and when the 2018 came out, it was like so different. It felt fresh. This game is not going to have that benefit. So I think the score is actually going to come down a little bit, while the actual overall game might technically be better slightly. I think the scores will come down to around 88 or 89 is going to be my guess. Okay. The Callisto Protocol. There again, it's a big I think one of the last games that Nate drafted. I think it may have been the last game he drafted, and then Alex. I don't know if he thought it wasn't going to come out or if he thought it was going to suck. I guess maybe he thought it wasn't going to come out, or maybe Alex just hates on horror. So what do you think here? What's the Callisto Protocol going to do?
I think he thought it wasn't going to come out.
Okay.
Because the pedigree you talked about, the creator of Dead Space making this game, no way would I counterpick it because of that. So I'm sure he thought it wasn't going to come out. I didn't think it was going to come out.
Yeah.
It got a release date late, and its release date is in December. So that just seems seems prime for a delay. If it gets 10, that's what I needed to get at least 10 to take Alex down 10 points, and then that's where my 24 for my other games will get it. So that's what I'm hoping for. I think it's gonna get an 85 or an 86. That's what I'm gonna say is my prediction.
Yeah. I think it's gonna 85 or 86 is right around where I'm thinking as well. I'll go ahead and say, I'll say 86. I'll say 86. So a negative 16 for Alex's roster. I didn't do the math on everything that I predicted, and then therefore, who does that come out winning? I don't know who that would be. I'm not going to make a guess because my guess might be different than what my math just said. But I don't know. Let me look at your score real quick. Where are you sitting at? Where are you at? What's your total score right now?
I don't know. I usually
It's
look at
88.
my phone.
No, it's 88. It's
okay.
88. So you got Midnight Suns. You got and Nate's got a lot of ground to cover. Nate's just got a lot of ground to cover. Not saying he doesn't have fantastic games. He does.
Right.
But it's just too much of the what could happen in between, So I just don't know. I guess I'll give you the slight edge because I do think Callisto is going to gut punch Alex enough. But that God of War, and I'll say your Midnight Suns. So Callisto, God of War, Midnight Suns. Those are the three games I think will decide the league. I think.
Yeah,
Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. I think for me, when I'm doing the math, like I said, if I can get 24 points from my games, that's going to put me at 112. And if Callisto Protocol releases, it will be hard for Eddie to stay above the 112, in my opinion. I mean, Alex, thank you. Alex will stay above 112, in my opinion. I don't think either of his games can score high enough to keep him above that. So that's kind of the score that I'm shooting for. And if River City Girls 2 and releases along with the rest of the games on his list, he could get above it. But I don't think River City Girls 2 is going to release. So that's why I think I'm going to come out on top.
Sure. Okay. Well, of course, these are all going to be massive games whenever they release. In the thread, we're all eyeballs are going to be on these 8 games. These are the ones that really it's going to decide the whole league. So this is the most exciting ending I think we've had ever in the league. Am I wrong? Like coming down to 3 teams that you don't know who's going to take it. It really could be any one of them. It's really exciting. I couldn't be happier with how the league is going this year. So, Luke, as we wind down here, any final thoughts on the third quarter or anything in the future?
No, it's been a fun year. I think my strategy was to pick games I knew were going to release, and I think it seems like it's paying off. So I'm happy with that. Hopefully I can come out on top. But either way, it's been an exciting year.
Yeah, the strategy I need to probably employ for next year, games that will release.
Maybe, I was expecting. I thought about getting some ammo for when I said that in case, oh my goodness, I totally Adam had some sass just like he did for Alex. You know what I mean? But because I think getting games you know are going to release, it sounds easy, it sounds obvious, but like that's going to make a big difference. I think this would be interesting if I win by 2. If I win by 2, that means that the fact that I picked Rainbow Six Quarantine, whatever it's called now, the Rainbow Six game that got me 2 points, made me win instead of a will not release. And that would just be so funny. That would be so funny.
There's a lot we're going to be able to point back to. It's like, what about this? What about that? This is great. This couldn't be a better ending to the year. So good luck to you, Luke. Good luck, Alex, even though I don't want to say that. And good luck, Nate. I think you guys all have a great chance, obviously. So we're all excited to see how it goes down. All right, guys. Well, that is it. We're about over an hour in here for the Q3 of the Dear Critics Review 2022. Luke, thanks for hopping on, buddy.
Absolutely. It was a great time. Thanks for having me.
All right, guys. Well, we'll catch you next time in the thread. And until next time, y'all take care.